Hi everyone, of the age, Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and let's talk about something that everybody can't stop talking about. I'm old. Anthony's 36, Anthony's 37, Anthony's 38, Anthony's pushing 40. Yeah, it's like an issue or what some people think is like an insult or something. Bringing it up as if I don't already know what my age is. Though, I mean, I understand and appreciate your effort. Once, you start getting past 30, the mind starts going and, you might forget how old you are. I mean, it's obviously why Leonardo DiCaprio can't date anybody who's over 25. But don't worry about me. It's okay, guys. I know how old I am. If it was going to stop me from doing or posting, whatever you saw me do or post, it would have happened before you said it. But look, I understand that it's a little bit weird for somebody in my position who is kind of commenting on music, the music world, which in terms of creation and performers and relevancy, it's really a young man's game. I mean, look at guys like Drake out there. Year younger than me, 37. He's a spring chicken. And Kanye West, even younger. Look at everything he's been able to accomplish at the tender age of 11. He's not 11? That's just how old he acts? Oh, okay. Kidding, I'm kidding. I myself am guilty of acting a little younger than my age. I get it. Which is why I thought I would come on here and address some of the reasons you're old, you're pushing 40 often comes up in my comments. Starting with the most valid one. Anthony, you're old, too old to be arguing with people on the internet. All right, look, I'll be the first to acknowledge that arguing with people on the internet is not the most constructive use of time, and I will also acknowledge that, yeah, I do it. Yeah, sometimes it can get ugly, sometimes it can get heated. I mean, for sure, on average, I think I am picking less fights on Twitter than I used to. And I know that a lot of you guys watch these videos, watch my reviews, and you're sort of baffled and confused. You think, how can this guy who is so careful with his words and is so logical and robotic and blah, 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 just be completely unleashing on people on the internet on a regular basis? Bitch, it's because there are two wolves inside me. Yeah, I mean, it's yin and yang, baby. It's yin and yang. And I don't really care who the people are who are putting these ideas out there, where they come from, what their age is, so on and so forth. A prevailing idea is a prevailing idea, and if that prevailing idea is stupid, it should be challenged. If I didn't get into it with you guys every once in a while, or jump into the trenches of music discourse, or at least pay attention to that shit, I wouldn't know what the fuck to talk about half the time, because I would just be in a vacuum, living in some kind of like isolated bubble, some ivory tower, total fortress of solitude where I don't know who's talking about what and why. And that's like not how music discourse and culture works, especially not in today's day and age where it's fully democratized. Look, I'm not saying every moment I've done or will do this is going to reflect well on me. And look, whatever sliver of hatred or vitriol you're seeing me respond to on the internet on any given day, that is just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the stuff I'm seeing any given moment that I'm just letting fly the fuck past me. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the more stupid reasons that my age comes up.
Anthony, you're too old. You're too old to be silly.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been following me for any extended period of time and been paying attention to me and my content, even my most to the point and serious content on YouTube, my reviews, it's pretty clear that I don't take myself too seriously. I do silly plays on my name. I dress in a character, and maybe not as often as I used to, but I still, occasionally will dress in character and say a dumb one-liner or quip, or, just put out something absurd. I post memes of myself. I make memes about myself. I say stupid stuff on the TL that I know is stupid when I say it. And it's weird. There's just a good subsection of people responding to a lot of this content in a very serious way. And I'm not sure if people have gotten dumber or if media literacy is at an all-time low, if sarcasm or irony doesn't really translate on social media well, or that, again, because of my age, people think that I must be doing and saying everything I'm doing and saying online completely authentically, as if I don't consciously know I'm being cringe when I'm ooh woo woo posting on Twitter. But yeah, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or wherever, there just sort of seems to be a very vocal group of people who seem to think that there's like an age limit to fun, which, like, how sad. Because all these people are doing is like damning themselves to a life of misery once they get to my age. Well, I'm past 25 now. Can't be silly no more.
No more silly for me, can only be serious.
Which, I mean, I hope that's a point of view that they just like grow out of. Next section here, Anthony, you're too old. You're too old to be on TikTok. Which, like, guys, grow the fuck up. It's just making content. Different platforms are going to require and encourage different kinds of video and content creation, different kinds of engagement. I've been on TikTok for 3 years now. I have been quite successful at it. And yet still at this point, for some weird reason, people think it's odd that I, as a 40-year-old, would engage on the platform in any way whatsoever. It's exactly this kind of reception that makes me feel not so much surprised when I see YouTubers out there who've been doing what I do for as long as I've been doing it and are seeing this paradigm shift and are thinking like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to learn another platform. I'm not going to engage with a different audience. I don't want to have to reformulate what I do. I don't want people to see me as like, you know, desperate or trying to remain hip and relevant and cool and so on and so forth. And, you know, dealing with it, yeah, it kind of sucks that some people like have that perception. But like ultimately at the end of the day, it's to serve a greater purpose of music discourse, and also through a lot of the stuff I post on TikTok, turn people there on to new and upcoming artists that I think are cool through my Try This playlist and a bunch of other stuff I do there too. But look, as a result of what I've done there, I've gotten messages personally from artists and bands that are like, hey man, because you shouted us out here or gave us a bit of exposure there, like it's easier now to do what we do full time, or it's actually kind of gaining us an audience. And that to me is like absolutely worth that trade-off. If ultimately those posts plug in a silent majority of people that just like kind of passively try the music out and get into it and follow that artist, cool, that's amazing. That's the whole fucking point of what I do. Because I think in order to be effective at my work, I need to be where the people are. I need to be where the music listening audience is, engaging in that music discourse, creating it, stirring it. And if continuing to do that, if I so choose to, means 10 to 15 years from now, I have to then jump over to another platform called Moo with a different content format and a different demographic of people. I don't care. If that's where it makes sense to continue having those conversations and making that type of content, I'm going to do it. Anthony, you're too old to have valid music opinions, I guess. There aren't a whole lot of people out there who are like explicitly saying this exact phrase, but it's being implied through a lot of the discourse around my age sometimes. And it's really freaking ridiculous because there's really no winning with a lot of these people. Either I'm giving a negative review to a Playboy Cardi or Opium or Ken Carson or whatever, and sort of like, you know, proving how out of touch I am because I'm not with what the kids are into. Meanwhile, there's a whole world out there of, you know, youth-based music, artists who appeal, you know, predominantly to teenagers, young 20-somethings, who I've reviewed very positively. I mean, Pink Pantheress isn't out here appealing to the 40-plus demographic. But still, to go back to this rage stuff, either I'm out of touch because I'm not fully endorsing this wave or this sound or whatever, or I'm enjoying a new album from somebody like Yeet, whose 2093 record, in my opinion, is his best yet. And to this same group of people, the response is, he's too old to enjoy that. Am I so old that there's no possible way that I could possibly conceive as to why you guys are, you know, into frickin' Ken Carson? Or is it that when I actually do enjoy some of the work from these artists, that I'm too old to actually be allowed to enjoy it? I'm not the one who made music a young man's game and made it that more often than not, it's the younger generations that, you know, are bringing the cutting edge sounds, the new trends, the sort of stuff that predominantly I'm the most interested in as someone who likes new music, who likes new ideas. When I started doing this as a job, I always feared becoming the sort of critic that just like waxes poetic on the good old days and endlessly glazes a bunch of just awful mid records from a bunch of legacy artists who are just like not in their prime anymore. And I mean, I guess there's like, you know, a demand and a market for that sort of thing if you want to do it. And for sure, there'll be moments where I'm into records and songs that maybe are not for younger audiences or from artists that I have a bit of history with. I've just enjoyed their stuff for a long time. But novelty does drive a lot of the fire, action, and discourse in the music world generally. And I feel like turning a blind eye and a blind ear to that would just make what I do a lot less gratifying if all I had to ever listen to was music that was formulated for or meant to appeal to people who look or are of the same age and gender as me. Yeah, that would make life really boring, and it would leave me with way fewer interesting and fun things to listen to. At the end of the day, I think, getting something or finding music that appeals to you has more to do with just constantly engaging and keeping your finger on the pulse of things, more than it does have to do with your age. Because there are tons of young people who are just completely out of touch with a lot of different trends and genres and styles of music, and they just have no idea what's north or south when it comes to really experimental or obscure styles of music, because the familiarity isn't there. And it's the same with old people, many of whom after a certain point in their lives, after a certain year in age, they just start tuning out of what's going on, what's new, what's relevant. And as a result, when they reach a point where they are actually kind of like hearing the first relevant or viral artists they've actually paid attention to in years, they're sitting there thinking, what is this? This is crap. This isn't like that amazing music I grew up with that was like super deep and like meant something. When the fact of the matter is, every generation makes deep stuff, makes slop. It's just a matter of paying attention, keeping in touch. Yeah, it's not exactly new to me that week in and week out, I am enjoying a lot of music and a lot of records that aren't exactly like, meant for people my age. But I don't know, the ease with which I enjoy much of the music that I'm hearing on a regular basis, I think comes as a result of just like, being aware of what's going on, being aware of what's relevant, being aware of what's popular, being aware of what's cutting edge, what's challenging. And doing that just requires more time, focus, and effort than I think a lot of people who are mid to late 30s, early 40s are willing to put in, because music isn't really a hobby for them. For the vast majority of people, frankly, it isn't. But look, I know a few people who are even older than me and are into lots of crazy new relevant stuff as well. And it's because they've spent the majority of their lives up until that point, paying close attention to a lot of what's going on artistically. I feel like the last thing I want to say, and I was kind of hearkening back to this earlier, is that I sense that a lot of these comments are coming from a place of fear and anxiety for a lot of the posters, because they themselves on some level associate aging with a sort of death of fun, of life, of cool things going on in your day to day, that after a certain point, you can't be a lively, engaged person who's actually like in touch with things. And I mean, I get it, because the example that a lot of these kids are seeing of that, it's their parents, which I'm getting kind of closer and closer to the age range of these days. But I think at the end of all of this, I'm just going to end up kind of using that to my advantage, because for years, for a lot of you guys, especially those who have been in my comments for a long time saying like, hey, I've been watching you since middle school. I've always been your music dad. I mean, even on that Kanye unreviewable video that we did, there were a lot of comments saying like, man, he's giving us like angry teacher vibes, which I feel like that's kind of like the first stage of that age evolution. I'm not quite at the point where I'm as old as a lot of your parents. I am instead sort of at that, that middle ground where I've graduated from college. I've been out of higher education for a while, but I'm like teaching, and I'm just coming into the classroom disappointed after everybody failed the test. But yeah, once I graduate age-wise from that point and that vibe, I will fully and completely be your music daddy. And hopefully at that point, I can at least serve as a bit of an example for a lot of you guys that regardless of how old you are, if you're passionate about something, if you care about something, get the fuck out there and do it. Because best case scenario, you succeed and it ends up being this amazing, fulfilling thing. And worst case scenario, you had fun doing something that you actually care about, and you didn't just limit yourself out of fear that you're too old to enjoy life. And I'm going to leave it there. Here's another video next to my head. Check that out. Love you. Talk to you guys soon. Anthony Fantano. Forever.